Hi, I'm Ed Jaeger, chair of the Subrogation Group at White & Williams. Welcome to Subro Sessions. You'll hear from various attorneys in our department discussing the latest legal updates, news, trends, as well as strategies for litigation, mediation, and recovery. We have a great episode for you today. Matt Ferrie, Gus Sara, and Lian Skaf are together again. If you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, email us at www.info@whiteandwilliams.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Subro Sessions podcast. Once again, I'm Matt Ferrie, and as always, I am joined by my friends, colleagues, and partners, Gus Sara and Lian Skaf.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Today's episode is actually a part 2 of a podcast we started a few months back called Who's On First? How First-Party Claims Adjusters Add Value to Subrogation Recovery Efforts. For part 1, this was Gus, Lian, and I discussing attorney perspectives about how adjusters add value. Today, we're very fortunate to be joined by a field adjuster, Ihor Redkva of Allstate. We've worked with Ihor in many cases, and in fact, this 2-part podcast is really an extension of a webinar that Gus and I did with Ihor for NASP back in 2020. That webinar was called I Got Friends in First-Party Places, How Subrogation Professionals and First-Party Claims Adjusters Can Work Together for Mutual Benefit. We certainly considered a shorter title. I don't know why we didn't do it. When Gus actually suggested to me, I Got Friends in First-Party Places as a title, I wasn't sure if I liked it. And now, a couple years later, after hearing it a lot, still not sure I like it. But you know what? They can't all be home runs.
Gus is Mr. Country, so.
So why don't we get started? Ihor, we're going to ask you a few questions. We'd love to hear your perspective on a few different topics. Would that be all right?
Yes.
In general, Ihor, what would you say? What is the reaction of insureds when you first tell them about subrogation and what the subrogation investigation may involve from them?
Yes. So subrogation is a term that very few people come across before they have an insurance claim. As an adjuster, I always find myself explaining what subrogation process is almost on every claim where we have subrogation potential. I often find customers to be slightly worried and reserved when I mention subrogation attorneys. For a moment, insureds feel like it may negatively impact them. However, once customers learn about subrogation process, parties that are involved in the investigation, and how the process will benefit them and the insurance company, they feel relieved. Insureds often tend to cooperate and are highly interested in a positive resolution of the subrogation process, and they tend to be on the same page with the insurance company. People often feel secured and in good hands when they know that the insurance company employs high-value resources to assist in the investigation of their loss.
Nice of use of in good hands, too.
Yes.
Company man. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I find the same apprehension at the outset. When I first call insureds, they simply hear the word attorney and think they're being blamed for something. I guess it's similar to like the nervous feeling you might get if a policeman shows up at your door. Totally understandable. If an attorney called me out of the blue, I'd be a little concerned too. So I also agree, though, that after I explain our role, that apprehension generally goes away. In fact, oftentimes the insureds are happy that someone's working on figuring out what happened that led to the fire or the water loss or whatever happened. Like the adjusters, the insureds are busy figuring out how to best mitigate the loss, what contents can be salvaged, and issues of that nature. So even if they were qualified to do so, adding on the task of being involved in the investigation of the cause of the loss is not really realistic. So they're usually glad that there's someone on the job. Even if they don't have a particular out-of-pocket loss or any financial stake in the outcome, knowing what happened and why can provide some peace of mind.
Yeah, I certainly value the insured who understands and appreciates our role. A thorough subrogation investigation sometimes requires a lot of fact gathering on the part of the insured, including the need to search records, pre-loss photographs, and perhaps even sometimes needing to get other relatives or house members involved in the investigation. And I put myself in their shoes and sometimes wonder if I would be as cooperative after experiencing such a loss. And to be frankly, it's always usually in the negative. But that's why I always make it a point to express my gratitude for the insured's cooperation. That being said, not to ruin the party here, guys, but there are occasionally times when the insured takes the loss a little too personally and begins demanding that we continue to pursue recovery efforts even when the evidence simply does not support doing so. I recently had a case where water leaked into our insured's luxury condominium unit from a unit above. The unit above had recently had some plumbing renovations done about 6 months before the loss occurred. And our insured was adamant that the contractor who performed the renovation work was responsible for the loss, even though our evidence did not support that. The pipe that leaked predated the renovation work and was deemed to be original to the building and was not very close to where the contractor had performed renovations. And there was no evidence that the pipe was modified. In addition, the pipe had been discarded prior to our investigation beginning. So that is the other side of the coin that could be sometimes problematic. And as all things in the world, a little balance between these two extremes is preferred.
That sounds like a great case, Gus. Did the insured stop calling you after a while?
No, unfortunately.
I think your phone's ringing right now.
Next question for Ihor. Ihor, do you prefer that a subrogation professional provide you with frequent updates or notify you of every development in the origin and cause investigation?
Yes, absolutely. As an insurance professionals who handle claims on a daily basis, we are invested into successful subrogation on the claim. Successful subrogation recoveries allow the company to keep insurance rates low for our customers. As a result, we would like frequent updates so we can update our customers, our files, and assist subrogation professionals where possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think keeping all of us in the loop on what we're doing is always beneficial, from both sides of the coin. I always appreciate adjusters letting me know if the claim is wrapped up and paid or if there's some significant update on the adjustment side. So I can certainly understand adjusters appreciating us reciprocating with updates on our investigation. I think generally, the better the flow of information, the less chance for any miscommunication, like on our side of things, discarding evidence someone didn't know we needed, or the insured getting any false expectations of our involvement, like Gus here has had to deal with. So sometimes setting written updates to general adjusters can be tricky for an attorney, client privilege reasons, especially if it's, a third-party adjuster we're dealing with. But we can always get around that with a phone call.
Ihor, would you say that it is generally helpful when the subrogation attorney tells you that part of the scene can be released for repairs, but perhaps not the room of origin?
Yes, this is probably one of the most important parts for the adjusters. Especially on large losses, we often need to stabilize the property to prevent further damage, complete pack out, or even complete mitigation work immediately. If we do not get the updates on the scene from the attorney, we assume that the entire scene is secured. This prevents us from initiating our process timely. Communication on what part of the damaged property can be released helps us make our process more efficient.
Yes, agreed. I personally try to do this as much as possible. I understand that the adjuster usually receives significant pressure from the insured to greenlight the repairs. And sometimes it could take weeks to complete the scene investigation. So when possible, I discuss the issue with our experts and try to get a clear understanding of the area of origin and what areas around it can be remediated. When that happens, I inform the client that whatever the potential targets that are placed on notice may take issue with not being able to inspect all the damage and that we may need to produce the adjuster's photographs of the damages early on to curb those concerns. Also, it is very important for the adjuster and the subrogation professional to contact the insured, the restoration company, and any contractors involved that the designated area of origin needs to be preserved. I also make sure that my client tapes off and placards the area of origin so that there is no confusion. There are also instances where the area of origin cannot be pinpointed with any certainty without altering the scene or because of distorted fire patterns, which may require the entire loss site to be preserved until after the joint site inspection is completed. But when you do release some of the lost site for repairs early, extreme care has to be taken by the subrogation handler before making the call to release those areas for repairs.
So Ihor, last question for you today. For some carriers, the adjusters may actually be involved in retaining experts for the subrogation investigation. That's not Allstate's procedure. But from your own experiences observing subrogation experts, What qualities do you like to see in the experts retained?
Yes, whether it's a small fire or a massive multifamily dwelling fire, I appreciate experts who are methodical and detailed in the approach to analyze the cause of the loss. I had a pleasure of observing firsthand how detailed and methodical the experts are. They go inch by inch looking for patterns and are not afraid to get dirty to uncover the truth. In addition to being experts in their field, I appreciate experts who are empathetic. Often in the interview process, experts ask witnesses and homeowners a lot of questions that may be emotionally difficult to answer for people who have lost their home or even worse, a loved one. Rather than making it a cold, straight to the point process, I appreciate experts who show empathy to people that they interview. In my experience, such approach helps to keep insureds at ease, and in return, they tend to provide more detailed information.
Thanks, Ihor. And that is a great point about being empathetic. We're always trying to strike a balance with competing interests. There's certainly something to be said for that expert who's sort of a bulldog in terms of getting information and keep pushing until he gets the information that we're seeking. But you never want to forget the fact that even if no one was hurt, this has been a very traumatic experience in the life of an insured. And you always want to be mindful of that when you're speaking with them. Subrogation is certainly probably one of the last things on their mind. So you do want to be very careful with how you speak with them and, explain the process to them, make it clear that they're not, they're not the reason why we're asking the questions, but for the purposes of what we're trying to do, they have information that can help us. From my own personal experience, I've often found adjusters to be helpful in terms of putting me in the right direction of an expert. Sometimes we'll have losses where the experts that I know or I'm comfortable with might be 3-4 hours away. And there's certainly occasions where I've asked an expert, who have you used in this area? Who have you had a good experience with? So important for our experts to keep in mind that adjusters are a great source of information to attorneys in terms of who we might want to retain. Gus and Lian, do you guys have any closing thoughts today?
Well, I want to thank Ihor for being present today and providing those excellent answers. You were always a very on-the-ball adjuster, and you were definitely one of those adjusters that really appreciated the Subro investigation. So I always appreciated that, and I'm glad you can join us today.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be a part of this series, and I certainly hope that my boss gets to hear those words.
And I would just add, like Ihor, we obviously come across, some of the same people, whether it's adjusters and attorneys a lot. So, I think it's important to pick up the phone and make a call, not just for gathering information purposes, but also getting to know the people that you're working with, so that when you do see them pop up again, there's a relationship there, they feel comfortable talking to you and vice versa.
So again, thank you, Ihor, very much for joining us today. We always like having guests on these podcasts and hearing different perspectives. We think it's helpful to our audience as well. Hopefully we can have you back for one of these in the future. So thank you once again to our audience for joining us. Subro Sessions, we are signing off.
Thank you for listening to Subro Sessions. Stay tuned for more episodes from the Subrogation Group at White & Williams, and visit whiteandwilliams.com to learn more about the firm, our group, and this podcast.